Hello and welcome to a special edition of The Big Picture. The year 2013 has seen some major developments in the media scene, some of which could be proud of, while some brought it under a shadow of doubt. For the last few years, media has been under scrutiny not only for what it does editorially, but also for the kind of changes taking place in its ownership. Meanwhile, the rapid growth and popularity of the social media also seems to be having its impact on the mainstream media. There have also been issues of media freedom and the insecurity of the journalists, as many have lost their jobs in an atmosphere of cost-cutting indulged by the media houses. What has all this meant to the way media has been perceived? Has its performance during the year enhanced its prestige or undermined it? We will look at all this today with a panel of experienced journalists. I have with me Vinod Sharma, political editor, Hindustan Times; Neena, Vyas, senior journalist; Waiel, Awwad, senior international correspondent; and Abhigyan, Prakash, executive editor, NDTV-India. Welcome to all of you. While I would like to come to you first, you are an outsider, you're an insider outsider since you've been here for 25 years covering South Asia and you're based in India. So when you look at the Indian media scene, say during this year, what is it that strikes you most?
I think the social networking has been the uppermost, where most of the Indian media houses have taken shelter among this kind of social networking. You can see now most of the TV channels or newspaper or anybody having one page or something or the other to communicate with the people. I think that is the most striking part, that the people power become more of an involvement. It's more of a consumerism to citizen now. It is citizen to consumerism. So it is a kind of a two-way relationship between the two the giant houses of productions and the people of India. That made me that make the striking the changes. But I don't see in the amount of the depth analysis is lacking now. I mean, I'm taking as a neutral, as you said, because I lived in India for so long and I've seen South Asia. I've seen the level of the journalism and has been reduced a lot, despite the fact that many of the people have found intruders into the media where they don't belong to it.
Why do you say that?
Well, because it is more dependence now on, you need to create a news.
You're talking of intruders. Whom do you consider as intruders?
Well, intruders, those who have not really grown up in the media, in the street, or recovering, reports of the people. Suddenly you find them at the helm of power because of the money. So money and muscles are playing more part in the media rather than it's really reporting news. It's more of a manufacturing, more of hyping the news. That's what really affecting the outcome or dealing with issues. But having the social part of it is really the one which is taking the upper hand in all the Indian coverage I see now.
And that's interesting. Neena, he makes interesting points. He says that hype, one is hype, muzzle, money power. We'll come to social media a little later. You think those have been the striking features of Indian media in this year?
Well, money power is there because many of the big corporates have invested hugely especially in the print media, and also in the print media, and especially in the electronic media. What is more is these things are not transparent. Nothing is known how much money one corporate house or the other has invested. That is the money power. The muscle power, I'm not sure whether you want to call it muscle power, but the advertising muscle power.
Advertising muscle.
The advertising muscle power, and also maybe behind the scenes political party muscle power. Because for example, I mean, it is very natural. Take the case of Modi. The BJP decided at his Mumbai executive to make him chief campaign. First something else happened.
First as a campaign committee chairman,
then the campaign committee, then the prime minister candidate. Now each time, the electronic media said he has been crowned. Coronation ho gaya Modi ka. Now what does it mean?
That is the hype which Waiel is talking about.
I'll give you an example. Just the Varanasi rally, just on Sunday. Many television channels before the rally began were carrying continuously one news item alone and at the bottom scroll saying that the biggest rally ever. Now, you have not seen yet the rally. Maybe it is the biggest. I'm not disputing that. But before the rally begins, you're saying it's biggest. And many other things. Take the Lokpal bill. The Lokpal bill has been a huge development, historic bill and all that. Tell me one TV channel, I mean, I can't watch all, but all that I've watched, all the TV programs on the Lokpal bill were more or less focused on CBI independence. whether enough independence has been given to the CBI or not. Tell me which channel said that the Lokpal bill, historic as it may be, has completely left out the states. The Lokayuk's part is just one sentence, leaving it completely to the states to bring about the Lokayuk.
So what you're saying? What you're saying is that as Waiel said, that in-depth reporting is missing.
Yes, so I'm talking about this Lokpal. Where is the in-depth reporting? The Lokpal, the Lokayuk's aspect has completely been left out by the Lokpal, and because all the regional parties and the BJP, which had several regional governments, and maybe Mr. Modi didn't want it. We know how he fought against the Lokpal.
It took 10 years.
Then because of that, they twisted government's arm, central government's arm, and got the Lokayuks left out.
The issue is
nobody has analyzed that.
Abhigyan, I would like to come to you. Whenever we discuss media, inevitably, unfortunately, I'll say, inevitably the discussion turns towards the electronic media more than the print media, because electronic media seems to take everybody's attention more. What Waiel says and what Neena says about the hype, there's less in-depth reporting, there is more hype. Do you think that the Indian television news channels have become a victim of this hype?
Absolutely, Girish. I totally agree with what Neena has been saying, and there is a serious problem, and the problem actually is lack of research, A, perspective, B, and C, understanding. I'll give you a small example, and I must make it clear, I can't speak on behalf of the entire electronic media, but when issues happen, and we're looking at the last 1 year, maybe 10 issues that a regular journalist or an anchor has to really read up and study. In fact, it's not even 10, to be honest. But there is a serious problem of not being able to understand A, and B, also not read through it. As Neena pointed out, the case of Lokpal or Lokayuk. So the problem is that somebody runs some sort of a scroll on an issue saying, what about CBI's independence? Now, invariably what is happening is that everybody tends to all of a sudden follow it. So I think, and particularly people who do programming more than anything else, journalists of course, and I've been a journalist like all of you for many, many years, but they have to study. It's very tricky. When a parliamentary party is being addressed by the Prime Minister of India and he talks about things which are absolutely shocking to me, I must say this, that there are a lot of people who've not even gone through the speech that is handed out to the people. So these are serious problems. Then one particular line is taken and hyped, and the whole day you run the whole thing. The same Precisely. Thing. So the politicians at some level are loving it, because even when these discussions happen, people know what to say, because they also know that they are not going to be asked questions. They are going to be asked questions which will be completely generic in nature. So that is why, as one of your panelists said, there's been a general perceptional decline, the intensity which still the newspaper is providing.
Okay. Vinod, so you think the print media, I'm sure you would love to talk about what the electronic media is doing. But let us compare the electronic media with the print media. In such situations, what Waiel was talking about, in-depth coverage is lacking now. You think the print media is somewhere much better off than the electronic media in this matter?
Yes, in relative terms, but not better off with its own incarnation about 10, 15 years back. I personally feel that I quite agree with what that this media has become more interactive. Because democracy, and consequent to that, democracy has become participatory, as we are seeing today in Delhi. So these two things have happened together, and this is the positive element, I think, where the
social media is a positive element.
It is a positive element in the sense that it gives everybody the freedom to state his piece. He doesn't have to run around Vinod Sharma to get a letter to the editor in place. He can just put one line or 114 characters on the Twitter, and it's all done. But what I'm saying is that on the serious analytical front, I think that the print media at times get influenced by television, and there are also times when the print media influences television majorly. I'll give you an example. Snoopgate. They had, all of them had information. Nobody dared to publish it.
Except one or two channels.
Maybe for commercial
except one or two channels which actually, No,
they didn't. They didn't. I mean, it wasn't played up the way they played up after certain major newspapers put it on page 1. And consequent to that, there was a veritable, scramble between television channels to show it, that do a better coverage of that. The point is not this. The point is that increasingly within media organizations, the social responsibility is getting superseded by financial viability.
Right.
And it is a fact that most of the major television channels are not making huge profits. And because they are not making huge profits, their dependence, I'm sorry to say, there are exceptions, honorable exceptions to the rule, but their dependence on big corporates, big business, big advertisers is almost akin to the dependence of wire services on All India Radio and Doordarshan once upon a time.
Right.
Where they're still under, I will say, so much dependent financially on these two major consumers. So there is a point to ponder here. And I think that media organizations, and all of us included, I mean, nobody's trying to put oneself on a pedestal and say, look, we are better off than others. No. I think that this rot has set in everywhere, and we should be better beware of it. Because the stage is going to come, Girish, just 1 minute. A stage is going to come when the only where that keeps us going will be nowhere, and that is credibility.
Yes.
Can I just give one example?
My question, I'll ask you the question also. I'll go to Waiel later. Ownership. How much is the ownership affecting editorial content?
Well, ownership, as you know, for last decade or more, the whole business of, I'm talking about print media, the whole business of the owners becoming also the editors has become rampant. Earlier it was kind of...
You worked for a newspaper where this, in the past, where the owner was the editor for a very, very long time.
Sorry?
You worked for a newspaper.
Yes, the Hindu had a tradition for a long time.
Yes.
But I'm talking about even other newspapers. Take the Telegraph, for example. The Sarkar, he's the editor-owner now. And there are many other papers,
yes.
all the regional papers.
And in the regional language,
it is this thing. What I'm trying to say, that was there was a very strict separation of powers between the management, whether owner or a professional manager, and the editor. And very often the editor did exercise his prerogative as far as choosing the news is concerned, or what will go on page 1, what will not go on page 1. This is now more or less quite often dictated by the needs of the organization, the financial needs that Vinod Sharma said, either advertiser needs, or if it's a corporate house which has put in money, you are a little bit, for example, the obvious, there are other examples, but the obvious example is Reliance. Take the KG Basin dispute. Recently again, whether the money has been increased.
Enhanced.
Now, that news is hardly present at all, either on television or in the print media.
So what you're saying is that it is obvious now that the ownership is influencing what the editorial content is.
100%.
While do you observe this, being as an outsider, being in India, ownership, the change in the ownership pattern in the media houses, how far has it impacted editorial content according to you?
Well, it has a very big impact, to be honest with you, despite the fact that maybe you leave the editorial board on themselves and you maybe make some cosmetic changes, but in the long run, there is a great effect on that. In fact, I would look at India in a different way. You know, it is a newly evolving. It's not yet, segregated into independent kind of houses or a giant networking where it can be looked at as one, because there is a kind of mushrooming of Indian channels and newspapers, regionals, international newspaper coming to India, media houses big. The public of India is yet to be segregated. Like in our example in the Arab world, we know that if I know that there are certain sector of the society will watch Jazeera, somebody will watch Al Arabiya, somebody will watch BBC. So our kind of segregation of the public has already been done. So the ownership of these things have put a more impact on the Indian news item that they are giving. And I think that is the main. I give you a certain example, like we released a couple of books in India for certain book which revealing facts about a company. Well, I remember in the press conference it was full house. But next day I didn't see a single thing in the newspaper. And he himself was saying, I can challenge you, nobody can issue a single news on the paper. So therefore they are dependent on the number of, because news channels as we were, if you are not having a support from outside, so there is a vested interest. Unless and until this interest of those giant houses is maintained and retained, you cannot run the channel. You will be out of the business. So big houses, emergence of small channels into a big houses together, that is what the survival rate, and that will take at least minimum of 5 to 10 years in India to really see that tendency has been established.
Abhigyan, corporate ownership of the media. I don't know how frankly you would be able to talk on this issue, but this is something which has been a matter of great concern in the last 1 year, 2 years, especially. You think that there is increasing tendency of monopolistic tendencies in the media, diversity getting affected, corporate ownership becoming a huge issue.
See, Girish, you have to understand, I think two very important points made by one of your panelists. It's very important to understand, about 15 years is what you're realistically looking at the growth of television in this country.
Right.
And B, eventually, CNN may not be the biggest rating driver in the US, but there is markets now, the audiences will eventually mature and there will be models that will be watched. So there will be a Fox model, there will be a CNBC model, there will be an ABC model, and there will be a CNN model. Eventually we're going to go that way. Now to answer your question of the corporate involvement, and this is completely my independent view.
And the effect of it on content.
Absolutely. I don't think, and this is my view independently, it will not, there can't be a situation where it can be totally de-linked. And I agree with what most of your panelists have said, Girish. The second point is, when you are in a situation where structurally you're open to market forces and you're in a position where your equity is up for grabs and in the right way, no real backroom manipulation, I guess one is needed, then there will be people who will grab it.
Let us not overlook the backroom manipulation also, which we have seen.
Absolutely. So that's what I'm saying. So I don't know how much of that can realistically be stopped. That is my personal opinion. But I think what will be very important will be to look at the models. What is the kind of viewership that is following a particular type of content? Neena, Vyas and Vinod Sharma are two journalists that I have grown up reading, and I still get a Hindu or a Hindustan Times, and when I pick up the newspaper in the morning, I remember these two names because I've read them for a very long time. Now, what I'm trying to say, eventually you'll have to look at the models. You'll not be able to totally de-link it, and that is going to be. Secondly, very important, I must please give me 20 seconds to say this. You see television in particularly maybe England and US, all of us have seen that very closely. There has been a tremendous growth to localized form of television, where also we are struggling because of the number of channels that have been allowed to open up. So I think all this will take time, and as it's taking time, there are certain people who are taking advantage of that.
Taking advantage of that. Where, Vinod, the ownership pattern has certainly affected the content. But you think that has it affected as much in print media as it seems to have affected the electronic media?
You see, again, a very subjective view. The print media, say for instance, Neena, you asked her about the ownership. And the owners were editors of Hindu, but they were trained. Yes. They went through the grind. They were trained. It's not that they just one day, some young fellow from the family took over as editor-in-chief. It wasn't that, I mean, some of their editors who are now holding prime positions have done reporting with us, yes, and myself and Neena both, and we have worked with them. And they were as keen learners as all of us were. So there are distinctions which have to be made. But I think that today the problem is that it is not the freedom of the barefoot reporter, neither it is the freedom of the editor, nor is it the freedom of the proprietor. It is actually the freedom of the advertiser, mostly, And there are occasions when one view prevails against the other.
Vinod, one thing. the problems, what seems to have happened in the last couple of years, seems to be the advertiser has also become the owner.
I'm just see, but the print earlier was always
Girish,
a big
Girish,
business.
may I make a quick comment here?
Please.
Vinod is saying, I'm so sorry to interrupt.
No, tell me.
You know, I just wanted to tell this to Vinod, that very recently this has happened, and one of my weekday shows has got a sponsor, which is a very famous masala brand. So, but it is not that I'm going to make my show any masaledar because of that.
No, but that's not the masala fellow. It's not the masala
It's
fellow.
not the masala fellow.
It's not the masala fellow. I mean, you are actually missing the wood for the trees, Abhigyan. It is not the masala fellow. It is the guy who sells Audi. It's the guy who sells high-end products, you know. And he's the guy who picks up stakes in your company and my company and other companies. I mean, we are not talking about specifics here, but we are talking in generalities. But what worries me more, what worries me more is the influence, increasing influence of the security establishment on the content of Indian newspapers.
Right.
On issues such as terrorism, on cases in the investigation, on issues concerning social groups, you know, and the way those social groups are painted in a corner, they are painted in a particular way, stereotyping that is happening. And you see the worry is that without asking questions, and again there are exceptions to the rule, people are regurgitating what is being told to them. And
that is what Waiel also pointed out, in-depth reporting. And one
no question of in-depth reporting. I'll give you an example recently. The CBI director made a comment which was totally out of place. It was pejorative, so to speak, of the feminine gender. And it was said at a public function. And there was nothing about nobody was being told about it,
yes.
And people were asked to write about it. The electronic media totally blacked it out. Maybe again one or two used it, but it was following the efforts of certain newspapers which went and confronted the organization with bare facts, that it saw the light of the day, and the television followed it later. We too follow television stories. What I am saying is, if this kind of a blackmail could be resorted to by the CBI, then I think that leave alone other organizations, because it was a competition for access which made people not write about the story.
Yes, but Vinod, very quickly, what are you talking about? You know, what is the specific issue?
CBI director said that, you know, when rape is inevitable, you better enjoy it.
That was he didn't say, exactly.
Hey, Vinod, I want to say one thing, adding to his argument. You see, he said that this pro-security agencies, as if CBI
security
is some
establishment.
Farishta, Archangel Gabriel is going to come down and take the position of CBI director, or you know, and then everything will be honky-dory. He has to be given total independence. He is not an elected person. The same establishment which says democracy, which throws up a prime minister, this party or that party. I'm not going into parties, but any prime minister, he is the elected representative of the people. He is not to be trusted, but a CBI director must be trusted implicit. By the way, no, let me add, this is part of right-wing politics. The polity is moving right-wing.
No, what are you trying to say? You're trying to say that the media is just taking in this thing without questioning?
An army chief can do no wrong, a CBI director can do no wrong, but your prime minister is always wrong. I mean, what kind of a nonsense is this? Yes. But this is the stand taken by almost every TV channel and the newspapers. I'm sorry to say.
While we have done enough media bashing now, was there anything which could redeem Indian media during this year? Coverage of certain things which you thought, you know, has done some justice to itself and you know, enhance its prestige to some extent?
I think to a large extent the Indian media have had impact on lots of issues. Actually, they have also shown that the government respond in many ways, but not to do the rule of interventionist media, I would call. Now you become yourself the judge. Now we are manufacturing the news. We are not giving really the news. Like I remember when I was in Iraq, I was covering the embedded with the American. My channel was saying, no, you don't respond to the pulse of the street. I say, I'm sorry, I'm reporting news on the ground. It makes no sense for me to report what the pulse of the street. But with changes in India, and you know, you must see also in a democracy like India, the young people, there is lots of illiterate and there are educated class. So now with the social media taking over, and we as a young, the senior journalist would say, the younger one is not like going to go the depth what we were talking about in the news, because it is just a small paragraph. He wanted to give you, like, you know, a quote, or you have to understand the rest of
everything is available on the online.
Absolutely.
And groundwork, foot soldiers in
The
journalism.
problem is, you know
Foot
what?
soldiers in journalism.
We should know
Yes.
that there used to be times when we'd get a tip off and we'd have the story, but to collect the background, we'd spend weeks on end. Now it is available at the click of the mouse.
Yes.
So people like us, some of us, would treat information like 24 karat gold. And now it is coming for free.
Yes.
So that regard for information, the urge to double check and reconfirm and then publish under your name what you think is right, that is gone. And that's the problem of competitive
I won't say it
journalism.
is gone, but it is
It's the
reduced.
problem of competitive journalism.
Exactly.
Not
Yes,
that,
yes.
not that
Abhigyan.
journalists are not competent.
Abhigyan, yes.
No, a lot of things. I mean, I must point out, there's been a lot of very good work also by
Exactly.
Indian media.
Yes,
and
I think we should
we're
not-
all, both print and television.
Right.
I'm a great admirer. I've also been originally a print journalist of the work that is being done in print. Secondly, let's not all forget, from a social movement situation, from the journey from a Jantar Mantar to a Ram Leela, I know it might sound a little cliched, to a situation that somebody is managing to form a government or thinking to form a government, a one-year-old party. You also have to look at the role
How
of the
the
media, and
role-
this
absolutely.
debate will also always be there. Debate should be there.
Absolutely.
Then the second aspect, very quickly, is that debate, apart from the television screens and the multiple windows of the television screen, a lot of this debate has also been pushed in the social media space. It could be manipulated, the charges are serious there, but definitely the debate is more intense than what perhaps it was 5 years ago.
Right. Vinod,
last civic
very
issues.
last words to you, all of you.
I think on civic issues, on matters relating to education, on the state of the poor, you know, for instance, the Muzaffarpur coverage of the entire media, I think these are stellar performances.
Okay.
And that one cannot run them
Absolutely.
down. By the same
Yeah.
time, we
Quickly.
do a lot of introspection.
While-
Great video, you said that. Yeah.
While Abhigyan just said, I say that even electronic media has done some wonderful work, but I want to point out, take politics. Mayawati has been completely almost not reported.
Blacked out.
Blacked out. Even the year before she actually formed the government in UP, there was a complete.
So
but
there is
even
a-
talking about last 1 year.
Yes.
Where has Mayawati figured at all?
No, it's also
In
a
the
problem
coverage?
that she doesn't want to, the media finds
No,
it
no,
difficult
I'm
to...
sorry. Her rallies are not covered the way, even
Absolutely,
big rallies
that I
are not
agree.
covered
Yes,
the
yes,
way.
while
And, that
quickly,
shows
last
the
word.
political bias
But Neena, the misgovernance of Akhilesh Yadav is surely getting focused.
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
I think that's also
Absolutely.
very
Yes,
important to
absolutely.
look at.
I agree. The
Last words,
misgovernance.
while-
Only if Mayawati does something wrong, like a CBI case against her, that will be covered hugely,
Yeah,
but not
the
her rallies.
bias-
I'm sorry
For
to say.
instance, in the
You're
case of
talking about
Narendra
bias.
Modi's rallies, even the shots are provided to the television channels
Yes.
by the organizers of the rally.
Why
Is it
hasn't
true or
that
not?
been used?
It is.
I am told that the photographers
To make
are
a
not
small
allowed to
rally
take
look
whatever
okay.
angle they want.
Okay. While quick last words to you.
Well,
You see something positive which has emerged. You see what is it that in the coming year you think that things will change, or you think the evolution what you were talking about
Yes.
earlier. You see that happening?
I think it will happen. It will take some time, but I can look at it from the sociological angle and a macro sociological angle. If we look at it from the macro point of view, yes, I would see the Indian media getting more evolved and getting more independent and more credibility in the terminology of it, because to be part of the judgment and the news, it's not. We are, as a journalist, supposed to give the news. It is for the public to decide what is the decision.
That
to
is
be
where
made.
the problem seems to lie, being the judge as well as the prosecutor. But while has shown some positiveness, optimism, saying that credibility may improve, but credibility seems to have been a major issue during this year and for quite some time now, as far as the media is concerned. Hopefully that credibility will increase in the coming years. Thanks to all my guests, Abhigyan, Prakash, Waiel, Awwad, Neena, Vyas and Vinod Sharma. Thank you very much. Please keep watching. We'll come back with another issue in Big Picture same time tomorrow.